Hello, hello, hello. All right, mini reading. Let's get down to it. So you have such an interesting chart. It's so much like mine. Ha ha ha. Just joking. But let me hide everything. Do. Okay, that looks good. So let's share screen. Hold on, frame. Mhm. So yeah, anyways, eighth house. So Leo rising with Leo North Node. So basically, big three. Let's start there. You got your Sag Moon, Leo rising, Pisces Sun, all in the same houses as me too. Um, so obviously, I can speak from experience. Um, when you have a Pisces Sun in the eighth house, with a Sag Moon in the fifth house, and a Leo rising, there becomes a battle where you are trying to feed two mouths at the same time, two very different mouths that represent very different parts of you and your psyche. So, part one is this fiery, very adventurous, very philosophical, um, very action oriented, fun oriented, and the Leo rising. It makes the sun rule your chart, so it just becomes very important what house the sun is in. In your case, it's in the eighth house. So the eighth house sun people are people who go through their lives, and I know this can be said about everyone, but eighth house suns more than anyone, where you can break your life down into different periods and literally look back and almost not be able to understand or notice, or like just you it's almost like an actress was playing you at these different times, because the eighth house is about death, rebirth, and transformation. It's very connected to the occult, it's very connected to the esoteric. Um and basically, Pisces is super super sensitive, right? Pisces is so sensitive. So there's the Pisces part that is more introverted. It maybe prefers to stay at home and meditate, and just and it's very, very deep, very spiritual. Pisces have this thing where we can kind of disappear sometimes because we're so overwhelmed by the energy around us. So our environment is super important. And yeah, it's just this very sensitive watery, um, kind of out of this world part of you, where Pisces can get very frustrated because their level of sensitivity, other people might not see it. So this is what's interesting about your chart, right? It's that you have the Leo rising. So your rising sign is how you appear, it's your personality, right? So to have Leo rising, but then your Pisces is Sag moon, you well, first of all, you're emotional. Your moon. It's basically your moon, your ascendant versus your sun, right? But the goal is to turn it away from being a battle and turn it into something where you're feeding both mouths. So how? Let me explain more about the fiery side. So the Sag moon, obviously, Sag moons, they are very much about traveling physically or traveling metaphorically. It's all about expansion, inner expansion, right? So we're inner optimists. Sag moon, it's a moon sign that loves to experience different cultures, that loves to experience different philosophical outlooks on life, right? And in the fifth house, which is the house of Leo, your moon, it means that you have a certain level of creative desire in your life, right? There's this need for you to find different ways to where you can expand yourself through creative outlets. And with Pluto there, doubles down on that, right? Because fifth house Pluto people, they come into this life, especially as a Leo rising and a Leo North node, I'll get into in a little bit, feeling like they have a special creative purpose. Now, when I say that, I do not mean, oh, I have to be famous or something like that. No, they feel like they're here to almost try, like the Sag, since it's mutable, there's this need to there's this the need at the end of the day for a Sag moon is finding truth, right? What is truth? Truth is my personal truth, your personal truth. We all have a different personal truth. But if we can get our personal truth the closest to what we deem to be actual truth, then we're going to be able to take that and we're going to be able to have a life that is, aligned with what we feel is real. You see so many people in today's world who are just living lives based on complete illusions in the sense that, like, they're working like their whole lives for what, and then like they don't even know how to enjoy their life. So you have a lot of really strong energy. I see your Scorpio Mars. Nice, nice, nice. Um, so that Scorpio Mars is actually going to be on Team Pisces, Team Water. So you have Team Water, Team Fire, right? Um, and then your Mercury in Aries is going to be on, and your Venus in Aries is going to be with the fire. So everything is in fire or water for personal planets. So basically, the way to make things work with that is to understand that your moon, your what makes you feel happy, secure, your inner environment, it does need a level of change, right? Like you need to feel like you are growing, whether it's completely embedding yourself in different cultures, um, meaning, really, really leaning into something like astrology or some sets, obviously the one that came to my mind, but anything that like that help that you really like. Saturns love to learn, they love, and they're very open-minded at the best. Sometimes they can be dogmatic if they become too, if they associate their ego too much with what they know, right? And that's the two warnings I give for Sag Moon, even though it's my favorite moon sign, not just because it's mine, I just love Sag Moons in general, is that sometimes there can be an overly expansive energy where nothing can be wrong, and they only, and that goes with Pisces too, right? Where, um, for example, in relationships, maybe seeing only the good in someone, the potential, but not the realistic. Um, so with a Pisces sun in the eighth house, um, I always tell people with eighth house suns that there can be a certain awkwardness because eighth house suns grow so much. Like I told you before, um, let's say you're still around the people you grew up with, in the same environment. A lot of eighth house suns I know, there comes a time, myself included, where we outgrow, where we came from, right? And then there's what can happen, which can be very awkward, is that if some people will want that old version of us back, right? Of eighth house sun back, and will unconsciously try to pull them down because somehow their growth is threatening to them. So I always think it's a good idea for someone with a chart like that to, I'm not saying leave where you're from, but a Sag moon is so happy when it just gets to feel life from a different perspective and talk to people who grew up differently, who have different values, because it enhances their worldview, and that is the need with the Sag moon. Doesn't mean they have to be moving geographically. It can also just be learning a lot, learning from here, learning from there. But then the thing Sag is that once, especially in this, I could definitely see you being the type of person who mixes your creativity with your work, right? Like kind of like I do, right? Like I do this for fun. Um, I love astrology so much, and it became something that is now my job, right? So I think that that's one great avenue to bring the two together. But really, it's about honoring this water side of you that is like Pisces, Scorpio. So first of all, having a Scorpio Mars, right? Mars is your assertiveness function, your action function. That is such a strong Mars. The two strongest Mars are Aries, which is the more fiery, combative, like just like physical, and Scorpio, which is more of the psychological. Um, psych like on a psychological level, a Mars and Scorpio, you can never put them down, and they make the worst enemies ever, right? You do not want to be on the wrong side of Scorpio and Mars because they know exactly what to say to fuck someone up, especially because you're Black and Lilith's there too. Which is crazy because we're born 9 years separately and we had a lot of the same placements. Um, so basically, yeah, like with with that in your Pisces, that's going to be this part of you that, and even with the Sag, Sag is not really looking to have these low level discussions. They want to see the big picture. So Scorpio is like really beneath the surface. So it's like this drive towards like getting underneath things, the unseen, the occult, esoteric, the underground of life, right? All these things, super important. Um, and then the Mars is squaring Uranus. So that is a very interesting aspect because what it can do is it can create a certain level um, of like, it just creates an enormous energy level, right? And when you lack Earth, as you do in your chart, you too, um, there's a need to find balance in your life, right? There's a need to find a certain level of consistency in your day to day, something that fits you, because you have a lot of mutable energy, right? Mutable and fixed. So when you have mutable, which is the Sag, the Pisces, um, and fixed, which is the Leo and the Scorpio, and then you have Cardinal with the Aries, you really have this ability to kind of go with the flow in life and just take, life kind of wherever life takes you, you go kind of thing. But then once you really fixate yourself on things that you're really passionate about, to really go full in on those, right? Now, the goal is for them to be in some level related to creativity. Um, Mars square Uranus is one of the most volcanic aspects of astrology. There's a big need to develop a level of self-restraint. It's really good for like leadership, and it's really good for someone who just is not very rebellious, who doesn't give a shit, who's like, I'm going this direction. You can judge me if you want. I don't give a shit, lots of courage, but they can be also accent prone, and there can be some anger sometimes, right? And with the Scorpio Mars, I told you like that can come out, with Black and Lilith. If someone pisses you off, like I said, you know exactly what to say. I know you're probably a very sweet, sweet person, so maybe it doesn't come out, but it's there. It's there. The psychological potential to really know what hurts. Also, Scorpio Mars people, you cannot. They're spiritual warriors, and they're very interested in understanding what makes people tick in their psyches, and they really want to know kind of what is like what's really important, what's under what's undercover, what is hidden in the world. They're truth seekers. Sagittarius is also a truth seeker, right? So having Scorpio as your Mars, it's going to give you a push towards wanting to have very, very deep relationships that are transformative and that really teach you about your shadow. It's like kind of like an ultimate shadow work kind of place, right? Also, the strength that you have on a psychological level is unrivaled. You can never ever push a Scorpio Mars down. You can push them down, but they're going to get back up because your sun is in the eighth house of Scorpio. You are someone who, once you get pushed down, you get back up, and the death, rebirth, transformation happens. So there's many different phases, and sometimes with this there can be extremes, right, where it's like you can go, some people, they like 0 to 100, let's say this is like the worst, this is the best. Some people, they just kind of like stay kind of like 40 to 60, never too bad to really really need a change, never too good. Some people with charts like this, I would imagine, like they can just go to extremes to where they know, okay, this needs to fucking change. Um, so it's like a catapult effect, right? And when you have Pluto in the fifth house, you do have this deep like knowledge in your soul that I'm here to get to know myself on a creative level better. Now, that connects to your North Node. North Node in astrology is from a karmic perspective, it's the mountain never climbed in past life, right? So when you're a South Node in Aquarius conjunct Uranus, you're someone who has been someone who in the seventh house who's really like it's really important for you relationship wise to pick the right type. Because you've allowed relationships to define you a little bit too much in past lives, and it's taken away from and you've been someone who's been a great helper to humanity. So in this lifetime, it's important for you to allow yourself to shine, to allow yourself to be given credit, right? As Leo North Node, first house, right? Being selfish is okay for you because ultimately you've been so unselfish. And when you're too unselfish, it can push you to where you're not fully individualizing, right? Even though Uranus is on your South Node, which indicates someone who, you know, let's say that you have, that your soul is not afraid of being different, but it needs to be more like there needs to be a very stringent kind of understanding of what type of person is good, right? Um, so very interesting is that Venus is in Aries. It's not aspected by anything. I mean, I guess it's kind of close to Saturn, which is it's nice to have those two because that creates the ability to have very long-lasting relationships, very karmic, long-lasting relationships. It's like the glue that keeps things together. It's also good for finances. But Aries, Venus financially can sometimes be spending too much, but with Saturn, it will make that a lot more conservative. Your Aries energy is in the ninth house of Sag. So it's like, once again, this very like Jupiter in the ninth house in Aries conjunct Mercury means that you're someone who's probably an amazing communicator, right? Someone who through their thoughts, through their communication, is so able to see the big picture, which is really good for being a leader, right? It's very, very naturally philosophical. When you take risks having to do with travel, having to do with learning new wisdom and stuff like that, you are blessed with Venus and Jupiter in the same house. You'll you could, first of all, you could find love if you're not if you're single right now, you could find love from people from different cultures, in different cultures, so forth. But you expand a lot the more that you allow yourself to travel and to take risks in those arenas of life. You're gonna learn so much and get so like lucky, fortunate with the people you meet and the things and the experiences you have. Now, back to kind of the big thing, right? Like, or like what I'm saying with these two parts, how do they work out? Well, it's understanding, it's really feeling into that Sag moon. What do I need, right? Because it's very easy to kind of let the fire part take over and the water part, which is more passive, not. So it's giving yourself that balance, right? Where you're able to be an introvert, you're able to have time, have strong boundaries, right? That's another big thing with your North Node in the first house, to be able to have the ability to tell someone like, hey, I need to spend some time alone, right? I need to be alone. Because Pisces, they are sponges for energy, right? That's why the environment you're in is so important. Who you live with, your friends, the energies in your workplace, whatever, right? Very, very important. I think that the more that you're able to understand, and you might already have this, I'm just saying, the more you're able to understand what you are, like, I say 0, but think of it like there's -10, 0, and +10. So to understand you at your base level, right? Like you when you're alone, when you're just chilling, when you're just happy, or just content, you're just in your own energy. To understand what that level is, how that feels. Like it's this chart is really asking you to become your own guru, right? Because you're balancing this because like the Leo rising is going to make you come off very social, right? Typically Leo risings have this very, this flair to them. But if you're a Pisces, there's that introvert side, and people might not see that because, yeah, and the Sag moon definitely complements Leo rising. So is the Aries energy. So you have all three fire signs. So action should not be something difficult. You should be a very adventurous person, um, and very creative too. Someone passionate about lots of different things. But then you have Chiron in the fifth. Um, but maybe I'm going to backtrack a little bit before going into Chiron. Sip my tea really quick. So, with, you know, direction do I want to go? Ha ha ha. Okay. I'm like, so yeah, we can talk about like this fourth house, right? So fourth house rules early childhood, and you have Mars, pretty close to your IC. Usually when that happens, that speaks to early childhood that could have been a little bit volcanic. It's not smack on your IC, but you know, a lot of times that does speak to an early environment, and you do have Sun square Moon, like me, same signs too. Yours is even closer. Yours is like literally exact 1 degree away. So oftentimes that could indicate a divorce between the parents, or a cold, or just like two very very different types of people who gave you, where you received like this information from one parent, this information from the other, right? That can be challenging, but let me tell you this: people with Sun square Moon are usually very successful, because they have this chip on their shoulder, and they're meant to blaze a path in life that's not like dad, not like mom, right? It's supposed to be their own individual path, very, very unique to them. So it does come down to this, like, this real inner conflict, right, between your nature and your emotional, your emotional nature, right, emotional needs. And yeah, a lot of times the parents just had a disagreement about what values to instill in the kids, and how to bring you up. Now, were they divorced? I don't make that claim because I've seen too many times where it's just hard to predict. But the thing is that the challenge is to really trust your own gut. I said be your own guru, right? And find your own way in life, not following, mom or dad. Um, so one thing I would do, I don't know if you read my book, Pisces Live Nine Lives, but I have a part where I talk about, you actually might love this book. It's on all international Amazons. I have no idea. I haven't checked the sales reports in like over probably 2 years. But and I get $3 per copy, 3 or 4. But anyways, I have a whole part where I talk about, and I didn't know this stuff. It's all so unconscious to me about like the main lesson I got from mom, the main lessons I got from mom, main lessons I got from dad, or the main kind of things that like stuck with me from each, right? And it was so different. My parents got divorced, right? So that can be challenging, but what it does is you say, okay, I'm taking this from parent A, I'm taking this from parent B, but ultimately I'm creating my own path. And because you have all this beautiful Jupiter, Venus, Mercury in the ninth, when you really, really, really go that adventurous route, you are rewarded. They say the Jupiterian, which you are, is rewarded when they take risks. Now, not stupid risks, right? Because like the Mars square Uranus, I think some kind of physical exercise would be the best possible thing for you, because that Mars down there, it can be like very unconscious, and there can be like unconscious triggers that kind of like piss you off. And Black Moon Lilith, with Mars is, oof, Yeah, like, if triggered, it's just really important to find that neutral mind through meditation or whatever it is, going back to being your own guru, right? Let's say someone says something triggering to you, instead of just trigger, response, triggered response, and then it's the tit for tat, having it be triggering statement, you have a spaciousness. You don't have to reply right away, you know? That's the mindfulness. That's the kind of being your own guru. So, um, overcoming any, whatever that Mars represents, some people with that, it's better for them to move away from their parents and have like, kind of like it depends on the relationship, of course, but sometimes to grow best, you know, people sometimes think, oh, I have to be, close. But sometimes, I think that relationships, if they're difficult, um, can grow from that. Um, Now, what's really interesting is that your moon is conjunct Pluto. Um, and that is very interesting. And basically, it makes you a very intensely emotional person, where there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Usually, the mother, when the Pluto is on the moon, is very, very kind of like overly protective, maybe like kind of controlling, um, and it can add a good amount of drama and intensity to the person's life. So once again, that is the need for that creative outlet. And creativity can mean anything, right? Creativity to me is you are an artist. You're understanding yourself as an artist, right? We're all artists. How, based on who you are, what is the life? What is the perfect life? Because you have this desire to head, this need to head towards Leo. Now, what is high and what is low Leo? Low Leo is I want to create, I want to I have to use my freaking hotspot. So now, okay, there you go. Where was I? Lost my train of thought. Yeah. So with the Pluto energy, like, yeah. So, it can be a lot. I have friends who have the Sag moon with Pluto, and their parents are just like nearly all of them are just really, or especially the mom, really, really just on their ass. It's hard for them to grow, and there's like a lot of like generational trauma, generational, um, you know, energy cycles in the family that they're the ones that are here to break it, right? So no pressure. I'm just joking. Um, and even your vertex in the fifth and Sag is just saying like how, going towards that higher philosophy and going towards this real like kind of galactic energy, this real spiritual, deep, deep energy, whatever is interesting to you, that is how you're opening it up and doing it in a fun way, having fun with your learning. Maybe you're like me and you want to, be self-taught with the things that you really care about. But the thing with Sag, like, and I was talking about high low Leo, so I'll get back to that. But like with high low Sag, sometimes Sag become the jack of all trades, master of none. So it's like I think with the high Sag, it's like, yeah, it's good to like, try lots of things, learn lots of things, all that. But then finding, one or two or not many that you just master on, that really fit that kind of artist, like, what you really want to do. So with the Leo, back to what I was saying, being your North Node, being what you're trying to be is high vibe Leo, it's not caring about the views, right? Let's say you're making music. It's like, I'm doing it because through the process of me creating, I'm understanding myself on a deeper level. You know, I'm getting out energy that's within. That is the high vibe, and then letting the rest come as it does, right? Low vibe Leo is like doing it all for external validation. That's the low vibe Leo, right? So yeah, I think one of the challenges, as I said, I have and you have, well, I mean, it's in your chart, is that, potential for, that aspect pattern between the trine of ascendant in Leo and Sag, which go really well together. That means that, the way that you come off your Leo outer personality is going to be there will be a nice link between that and your real emotional needs, right? So it's like, as a Leo rising, you can kind of put out this energy that's more extroverted, but then and then your Sag moon also backs that up, right? But then you as a Pisces, you're here to evolve. So it's like finding the balance between external, more social stuff, but then knowing when you need to have your alone time. Going back to that thing with that level. So it's like, I didn't really finish my statement there. So it's like, if you're right here, this is your baseline level when you're alone. Because once again, I say, as a Pisces, you take on so much energy, and sometimes it's not yours. Especially it could exist, with the family, right? And so it's very, very important um, to know what's yours and to be able to go, like, spend alone. Let's say you're like with like people for 3 days. I don't know, like a work conference. I don't know, whatever. Like just some situation where you don't have enough alone time. Maybe you start to feel overwhelmed. A Pisces might start to take on emotions, might start to take on energy that's not theirs, right? Um, but then when they go, so let's say you're around 3 people, you feel kind of stressed, but like you might start to think, oh, it's me, it's something about me. But then you go alone and you kind of decompress, and then you're like, wow, I went from here back to here. That means that people or that environment had this effect on me. And then in converse, let's say that you have people that when you're around, you're like here, and then you go back, and you go back to your baseline level, and you realize, okay, that's how you can kind of gauge. So it's really about understanding your baseline level and not forgetting the Pisces, because with the fire, all the fire you have, it can be very easy to be action, 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 but then you can have lots of burnout. So that can definitely, play its role in career as well, right? Um, so then a really, really important part of your chart is the Chiron is on in the fifth house in Sag. So this is super, super important. Because it can actually, Chiron is our wound, and you have all this creative energy, right? And you're very young. Um, Chiron in the fifth usually speaks to someone who, and I see a lot of these people, Chiron fifth house, Chiron Leo, where, especially in your chart, you're meant to be your individualistic self, right? To find your authentic self-expression. So with the expression part, creativity, whatever, it's meant to be in a way that's really true to you, right? Where you're really learning about yourself and creating for the sake of creating. Chiron fifth house people can be wounded around allowing their self-expression to flow, right? Early in life, usually wounded by, maybe it was a parent or how they grew up, uh, different messages, unconscious or whatever, that prevented them from being able to have fun and just be a kid early on. Maybe it was extra responsibilities around the house. Who knows? Um, so, teaching children could be something that's really, really good. Having children, with your moon there, could be something that's very, very, very healing. And yeah, just like really, really coming, like healing that and getting in touch with your inner child, where you can just have fun and be goofy, because that's really where all creativity comes from, right? And then you unlock that whole fifth house. Um, and then Chiron and Sag is also difficult, because maybe you had certain beliefs that were different than how you grew up, and there can be like a feeling of insecurity around beliefs and visions and all and philosophies, right? Um, so you know it's just important to kind of find the right people. But sometimes people with Chiron and Sag, they'll just travel the world looking for like just searching and searching for the meaning of life and for their truth, with the Sagittarian truth. But then in the end, once they're able to heal this aspect, they can be people who really, really teach other people, especially with the Jupiter in the ninth house. That's like the natural, this person who's on this insatiable search for meaning in their life, endless quest for knowledge, for philosophy, for truth, right? And like I said, getting lucky, with lots of expansive wisdom and knowledge, and meeting the right people at the right times. Jupiter and Aries, they love freedom. and they're very kind of independent people. So that goes really well with your North Node in Leo, right? That Leo energy. So the big thing here, it's like, okay, we get that you're supposed to be Leo, that you're supposed to try to go that direction. It's just about not forgetting, the Pisces and the Scorpio, the part that wants to go deep, that wants to, because like the Sag goes very deep too. It's just in a different level. It's more philosophical. This is on a more energetic, like within the self type of healing and change and transformation, right? So then there's your seventh house, which is very interesting, the house of relationship. You've got Neptune, Uranus, and the South Node there. So I already talked about the South Node, how there could be a tendency to, I don't want to say codependency, but a tenant like there needs to be a in this lifetime, there needs to be that ability to be alone, not be relationship obsessed. But with the unaspected Venus, I mean, if you count the Saturn conjunction, I don't know if I do, it's like nearly 11 degrees. That can create someone who can be like a relationship obsessed, right? So sometimes people with unaspected Venuses can look at their like the question of like how are you doing can be based on how their relationship love life is going, right? So, having Neptune in the seventh house also can make someone like over idealistic, and it can really play with the Pisces in love, searching for perfection, like kind of Disneyland stuff, Disney Disney movie kind of perfection in relationships, and they can become very disillusioned with imperfect partners. So a common thing for Neptune seventh is someone who, you know, like enters a relationship, they think that person's perfect, they put them like on a pedestal, and then, when they show their humanness, their imperfection, it's not good. But the highest is attracting very spiritual unions. That doesn't mean that the partner has to be very spiritual, like in this kind of sense, doing astrology, meditating, all that, but at least be very open-minded to like a very like, two souls becoming one type energy. With that said, in love, a Sag moon needs freedom, right? But then you see there's a split here with the love stuff, because the Scorpio Mars is very much about like that two souls becoming one. But then your Uranus in the seventh is very on the descendant, or 3 degrees in the descendant, is very much someone who, will want an unconventional type of relationship that has tons of freedom, right? Freedom within relationships are so important, and learning about your own individuality. So it could be something like me, where I have my girlfriend, we live together, but we sleep in different rooms. Like we do our own things, we come together, but the idea of an energetic reset in relationships is very important, because any two humans can get sick of each other after a time. It's just how it is. That's why you see divorce rates so high, right? So being able to have a kind of more unconventional relationship with space, where you're able to miss that person, could be the answer. Now, I must say in Placidus, and this is more about work, Neptune would be in the sixth, and that would speak to someone who has trouble with the monotonous day-to-day life and wants to be of service, wants their life to have some level of spirit, their everyday life to have some level of spirituality. And like the whole 9 to 5 kind of work culture can be very like a lot of sixth house Neptune people, they just can't do it, Um, but then you have Saturn on your midheaven, and that is super, super important, right? Because when you have Saturn on your midheaven, it's funny, I think I have 3 readings in a row that I've had this, but people, you know, with that are going to be successful, very ambitious, but their first 30 years. So I know you're not your Saturn return yet. It's usually like they have to pass a lot of karmic tests in that arena of life, career, dharma, before they're able to, hey, Esme, oh, look who came to help. Okay, do your thing, Esme. Look at the chart. Tell me what to look at. Don't look down. Look up. Look up. What are you looking at? Oh, the ascendant. The Leo North Node or ascendant? Okay, thanks, Esme. Say thanks to Esme. I'll talk about that in a second, Esme. Don't worry. Oh, you're looking at the best. Well, I was going to talk about that after. So, Yeah, Saturn on the MC, it just makes you very respected in your chosen profession. Um, I always tell people who have Saturn midheaven, it's like, and then your part of fortune's there too. So, you're able to have like it makes career. It's a really good thing. I have that too. We so much in common on part of fortune on the midheaven, but I don't have Saturn like you do. So it creates this boss energy. Let's say you were like a public figure, right? Let's say you had like, I don't know. Let's say you're doing exactly what I'm doing, whatever. I'm not a public figure, but you know what I mean. Like you have like content creation, because that's social media. Midheaven is how you're seen on social media. You'd be seen as someone very trustworthy and very, very like respectable, like people would believe what you're saying, lots of conviction. um but it makes someone really want respect, very ambitious. They really want to achieve a lot. And after a Saturn return, things like, because before that they can take 4 steps forward, 3 steps back, 5 steps forward, 7 steps back. The universe just keeps messing with you, but it's teaching you lessons about never giving up. And then when you get to the Saturn return, and that's not to say that you can't be successful until then. It's actually the best place for Saturn on the midheaven, because it creates someone who is very hardworking, who's very driven towards what they want to do. And they're really wanting to build things, foundations to whatever they're building. Very hardworking. Yeah, if there's 4 people who have exactly the same qualifications for a job, right? CEO or whatever, I don't know. Like the person with the Saturn and midheaven is gonna get the job, because they give out that vibe of respect, responsibility, and they have that too. But once again, it's just really important to choose what you do based on understanding this fire energy and this water energy. So also so I said missing earth, there's a need to, and there's things in your chart that are really showing us some kind of workout, to sweat, to burn out steam, having a daily routine that hits the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, all those things, really pushing yourself to ground, meditating, because when you don't have any earth, it can be difficult. You can be so creative, like I guarantee you are, but then like it can kind of, at least my experience and the experience of a lot of others, it can make it difficult to have that consistency. Like, how some people, they just wake up every day and they're the same person, or close to it. When you don't have earth, it's very difficult. And that's why that Neptune energy can make it hard to have like a very monotonous kind of career. So the ninth house, with, like I said, like, you could, be falling in love with people from different cultures, ninth house Venus, um, and very romantic travels for sure. And then with the ninth house, Mercury, someone who conjunct Jupiter, like I said, that's just like almost having a Sagittarius Mercury. So it's just like your mind is very broad, and you're also very fast thinker, and someone who always wants to see the big picture and speak about deep philosophical subjects that help grow you and your awareness about the world. So I would imagine that you're someone who, every client I get that's born like 99, 2000, like young ones, I know that they are ahead of the game, when they come to me. Because people don't come to me. People know when they're coming to me, like, I'm not going to fucking tell you like what you want to hear, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. But you don't have that many hard aspects. I mean, even your Mercury is beautifully aspected with that conjunction with Jupiter, sextile, Neptune, trine with Pluto and Chiron. So it's like you're able to put people at ease with the way you talk, a very good empathetic listener. And then you're able to really, really, when you find something that you want to study or you want to learn about, you're able to like really dial in and just be obsessed and just go, 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 and that fire adds to that. So then there's lacking air. So when you lack air, that makes it so you have to doing breath work, like just different breath work you can learn is super, super, super key to that. Getting lots of oxygen, going on hikes, being in nature with the lack of earth and air is important. The air quality of the place you live would be, important. But overall, like air has to do with communication, seeing other people's point of view. So it can be a little bit difficult in that sense. So you just have to really force yourself to, put yourself in other people's shoes and talk to people from all walks of life, which the Sag does help. It is fire, but it does help with that because it's Jupiter. But that's just kind of with the air. There can also be issues with baseline communication, right? So because you're a very, very deep, intense person, it could be difficult. And, I agree with this, like small talk, um, and, I imagine you're very intelligent based on something. Esme, sneeze a second sneeze on me in one day. Esme, a little allergic cat. But remember, you are always transforming. You are always evolving. You are always becoming a different version of yourself. So, the biggest potential trap in the chart, and then your sun. Hey, never mind. I thought your sun was on aspect of it, but you're able to really bring how moon with Venus is like good for relationships, good for bring harmony to people and having a good balance of give and take in relationships. That's really important too. With the Leo North Node and the South Node in the 7th house, it's like, once again, like, don't let people shame you and say, oh, you're being selfish. Like, no, like, you have like independence is so important. And if you're in a situation that's holding back your independence and your individual growth, it's not good. But yeah, so yeah, just really well aspected Jupiter too. So yeah, just like always remembering that balance between that evolution, that water, that evolutionary kind of like always changing, always remembering when I said earlier about how some people might try to kind of bring you back to your old self and not give into that. Super important. So let's see this. Okay, so you have Alpheca with Mars. So Lilith on the descendant and Amor on the descendant. Beautiful. So, Amor on this, I love Amor. So you definitely be someone who's a woman in this world who is not to be fucked with. Someone who can definitely stand your own. Like, even if you're like working like in the corporate world or something like that. Like, and that's also like a very kind of witchy energy. Um, potions and just being able to do things like astrology, whatever, whatever you like. And a more on the ascendant, that gives you the ability to have the most beautiful kind of love, unconditional love. It's a love inside where, for example, you could have lovers and yeah, you have a Scorpio Mars, so it's like, don't fuck with that. But, you can really, really see the best. And how do you literally have the exact same Eros conjunct Sun as the person I just had? Crazy. What's that? Karma conjunct Jupiter and Mercury. So, obviously it's self-explanatory. Karma playing a big role in your travels and in your teachings and in your expansion in the way that you expand as a human. And then Vesta, the asteroid, is on your rising. I don't know why I didn't say that. So, that makes it like, once again, like, it's important. It's very entrepreneurial. And it's very good for having like self-appointed goals and being very perseverant. And it makes it so the focus is on you, but that's important for it to be. And in relationships, finding the person that can give you that freedom, but also give you that nurturance, the 8th house, the Pisces and the Scorpio Mars is going to need someone who can go deep also, or at least understand that, right? But your moon is not badly aspect. It just has that Pluto one. So also there can be that those back and forth with mood and that real confrontation with your shadow, potentially through your mother. And to really maximize your career, you have to go back in the childhood and hit whatever that Mars down there in the 4th house represents. And in Destin Leo, you work, best on your own, left to your own devices, and take, great pride in your work. And it has a creative kind of flow to it. was the other one? Eris on Venus. So that makes, it can make someone a little bit explosive in relationships, a little volcanic in relationships, and Venus and Aries also sometimes they can be go-getters. Like when it comes to so many of my clients have it. It's so weird how many of my clients have Venus and Aries, but they can be like kind of go-getters. But then once they have the person, they want that freedom. Palace and ninth and Aries, like that's brilliant to have Palace and Aries. It's really, really good at like having like really quick, exciting ideas and putting them into action. Ninth house Palace, once again, being able to see the big picture and plan accordingly. So very advanced knowledge. It's really, really nice to have that. And yeah, like I was saying, like with the Amour, like just that unconditional love, like you could date someone and um you could date someone and potentially like let's say things don't work out, still keep that love, that unconditional love for that human, right? So it's beautiful to have that and just to have that like activated. It's just amazing empathy as a healer too. If you were like doing something like a psychologist or something like I'm doing, or your own version of it, it gives you the ability to see, the highest potential in people and to really be a great healer and to really help expand them and pump them up. You have that in you. It's beautiful. Pisces and Sag is so good for that. And yeah, the Eros with birth chart, able to express, creativity really well. It's also super erotic and sexual. It's called Eros. Come on. And yeah, it just kind of creates like it's kind of like a sexy kind of you know mysterious kind of energy, very Venusian, intimate, and kind of I don't really like to get into the sexual stuff, but let's just say that it definitely makes it so maybe a little bit taboo, like turned on by like more taboo stuff. I just feel awkward talking about this stuff. And yeah, then your Juno is in Sag, so conjunct Pluto. So that means you want a soulmate. You want someone who, but then also someone who's a soulmate, right, with the water. But then I think your Juno sums up the love stuff really well because it's like, and then you have Urania on Pluto and Antares on Pluto, but yeah, like just really, really wanting someone who is gonna be able to like give that depth, but also and that real transformative relationship, but then also that lightness and help you in terms of you releasing that creative side, that full being able to be yourself creative side. And that's in Sag. So once again, if got married to someone from different culture than yours, or just someone who's like where there's like a very like philosophical relationship, like I would not be surprised at all because there's so many placements there. Speaking of that, let's see if I can find anything on Pluto and Antares. I'm not sure if I can. No, I cannot. Um, those are more with like up to Jupiter or up to Saturn, I mean. But the fact that Urania is on Pluto, that's the asteroid of astrology. So it could literally talk about how you know, a way, that could be, so the astrology, something working with the stars, astronomy, that could be something that you master in, that you're meant to do. So yeah, that is essentially everything. So I know you just got the mini reading. Let me know if you want to do a follow-up in current astrology. I'd give you a $50 discount. Well, actually, I would give you more than that. I think it's usually, I forget the price, but I would do it for, hold up. So the follow up is 1 hour live. It's not like a long wait like this. Like we talk and um be the next few weeks. Schedule it a time that works for both of us. Let me see my prices. So I have it at um 350. And do it. So it's 500 total. For it's a 3-hour live session. First hour is a follow-up. We talk about all this. We compare your lived experience, which would be super interesting because we had such a similar chart. Compare your lived experience with what was said in the chart, and take things further. And then we move seamlessly into the current astrology, the astrology of the year ahead. So I would be happy to do it for 360, so 140 off. So USD. So let me know if you want to do that. If you want to do just the follow-up, I'd be happy to do it for 125. You just have to remind me about these prices. So most people, nearly everyone does the both of them, the follow-up and the current. So let me just look at the chart one more time. So remember, you are headed towards Leo. You're trying, it's only a specific type of relationship that's good, and to honor the water and the fire. The intuitive emotional intelligence and the depth with this very, active. So it's that between active and so there might be different phases in your life and whatnot where you're more like, and one thing about Pisces is that like as Pisces, we just go away sometimes. We just disappear into the who knows where realm, and it's just important to like not shame yourself for that. Because you know we're all different. We're all different. Um, so anyways, thank you, thank you. I hope you enjoyed and talk to you later. Ciao.